I want to bring in Thane Rosenbaum. He's Distinguished Fellow at the New York University School of Law, and James Zigby, President of the Arab American Institute, joining us from D.C. Thank you both for joining us. So, Thane, let me start with you. So, the issue that set this latest round of sort of back and forth off has to do with the settlements. We just put the map up there. The settlements in the West Bank. This is land that the Palestinians say, hey, this will be our state when this two-state solution sort of gets adopted eventually. And they say, hey, the Israelis, with these settlements, with these housing developments, they're slowly kind of picking off that land. Isn't that a fair criticism?
Well, first of all, it was never the case that all of the settlements would be returned. I mean, even President Johnson at the end of the Six-Day War recognized that the border for Israel could not go back before that war. And that's really the problem with this resolution. It changes the language, the context of Resolution 242, and essentially says that all of Jerusalem, east and west, including the Western Wall, is illegal occupied Palestinian land, and that when Jews are on...
In other words, everything, when you say 242, you're going back to 1967 here.
That's
this was a UN resolution about 50 years ago, and so they're saying this new resolution says everything that's happened since then is illegal, and that's the objection you have to it.
And the fact is that these settlements that you just said a moment ago, that all of them would need to be returned, nobody believed that. Even President Obama, when we hear the language land swaps, that's what land swaps mean. It means that some of these settlements are on the ground and they've been there so long, and they're going to have to swap lands to reflect the fact that those settlements are going to remain. But that's not what this resolution says, and that's precisely the reason why so many people, myself included, were so disappointed by the abstention, because this is what was unprecedented. It backtracked on long-settled U.S. policy about the land.
Let me ask James Zigby about that, because we heard Benjamin Netanyahu make that same objection. He said, look, this UN resolution that the Obama administration refused to veto, that John Kerry was defending today, he said what that said in part was that something as sacred to Jews as the Western Wall is deemed an illegal settlement by the Israelis, that the resolution goes too far in that. What do you say to that objection?
Well, listen, all due respect to Thane, what the resolution says is that the territory taken in the '67 war is occupied territory, and it is governed by the Fourth Geneva Convention that has very strict rules in terms of taking land from that territory, moving your population into that territory, and dispossessing the people of that territory from their land. Israel is in violation of international law on all those counts in the occupied territories, which of course does include East Jerusalem. Now, let me make a point here. When Israel talks about East Jerusalem, they talk about this huge swatch of land that goes way out into the West Bank, up to Ramallah, halfway out to Jericho, and down to Bethlehem. The issue here is that there are 22 Palestinian villages in there. Now all of a sudden they've been called neighborhoods, and it's Jewish neighborhoods and Arab neighborhoods. It's not. It's Jewish colonies occupying land that was taken from the people of Bethlehem, the people of Baijala, the people of all those little villages who've become landless peasants, corralled into tiny little communities without access to what was once their land. That's what John Kerry's talking about. And the United Nations didn't just do that with this resolution. It's been in every resolution that since 1967 about the issue of Jerusalem, about the issue of settlements. This is not new, and it's never been taken off the books at the State Department that the U.S. government views settlements as illegal. And so what the U.S. has done is simply taken away all the political rhetoric of the last 15, 20 years and restored the original rhetoric of the United States, which is that settlements are illegal. John Kerry is saying the following.
I want to ask Thane a bottom line question here. We're talking a lot about 1967, the years. While John Kerry was giving this speech today, apparently, approvals from the Israeli government were given for another settlement in the West Bank. We could talk about settlements that were put there 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, but right now, would it be a fair move for Israel to stop making more settlements right now as this is all being sort of contested?
Well, I think some of what you're seeing today was a reaction to the resolution itself, to the abstaining of the resolution. This is sort of one country saying to another country, if you're going to abandon me and isolate me in the world, this is how I'm going to respond. Now, let me be on the record. I've never been in favor of settlements. So I'm not here supporting settlements. I'm saying this is not how to treat an ally. This is not how to treat a friend. And with all due respect to James, it's not like the United States' position has always been that they're illegal. It's that they've been unhelpful. I mean, James is not saying, with all due respect, how Israel came to occupy that land. It's important to remember that there were 3 prior wars in which Arab countries ganged up on Israel, and it was only through that last war in 1967 that those lands were achieved. Israel, it's not clear that Israel wanted those lands. At that time, they were prepared to give them back. It's just the Arab nations, and specifically the Palestinians, have never been interested in nation building. They're interested in all of Israel. They're interested in Tel Aviv, not Hebron. And that's been the problem. And that's the problem that many people feel with the abstention, that it treats settlements as the major obstacle and not Palestinian violence or the intransigence to not want their own state.
Let me get, James, just a quick final word from you.
Sure.
That this bottom line question we raised there, do you still believe in the two-state solution, and do you believe it will happen?
I believe in it as a desirable outcome. I don't think it will happen because you have almost 600,000 settlers living in that land, many of whom are very extreme, as Secretary Kerry noted, and it would take a civil war to uproot them. Israel has dug a hole very deep for its own self. The U.S. has defended Israel from its external enemies, but as Kerry said, they are making a problem internally for themselves. And it's not the U.S. isolating Israel in the world. Israel is isolating itself in the world community, and that's what Secretary Kerry said. He said, in effect, the U.S. is not going to get dragged along with it. And the point here is that if you care about Israel, as apparently Thane does, they have to understand that the path they're on right now is suicidal, but if they want to continue on that path, that's their situation. And, you know, I don't know what I can say about it, but Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump are going to lead us to a major collision in the world community.
All right. Thane Rosenbaum and James Zigby. Obviously, there is a lot of history to this issue, a very complicated one. Thank you, though, both of you.